We lost all our clients overnight, and it was a real moment of, oh my God, what do we do next? They spent £100,000 with us. We were like, oh my God, we have made it. And then Liz Truss crashed the economy. We'd gone from being really, really quiet, waiting for, business to come, to my inbox being absolutely full of people going, it's a great idea, I want to be involved. Our vision for Regeneration Earth is to turn it into Europe's answer to COP.
If you're looking to be inspired, motivated and educated by the business journeys and lessons learnt of Leeds business owners, then this is the podcast for you. And I'm your host, Phil Fraser. Before we start, I have one simple request. Please hit the follow or subscribe button on the app that you're listening on. How was the pandemic for you and your business? Listen how Kate Hutchinson's events company went from potential disaster to huge growth, how chance meetings and recommendations have powered her business growth, and how she's now growing her events company in the sustainability sector. On today's Leeds Business Podcast, I have with me Kate Hutchinson, founder and CEO of the Sustainability Community. Hi, Kate.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Now, in one sentence, tell us what the Sustainability Community is.
The Sustainability Community is a network of sustainability leaders built region by region with a focus on growing the green economy outside of London and driving green industrial growth across the whole of the UK.
Okay. So we'll come on to how we got there. Let's rewind a bit. 25, you set up your own business. Talk us through that.
Yeah. So at 25 years old, I had the bright idea, as it felt at the time, to start something called the Secret Event Service, which was an events agency with a focus on delivering events with purpose. That was our vision. And for us, that meant that we wanted to work on events that would make a difference to the world, basically. And we specialised in the B2B sector, but we were very, very young when the pandemic hit. So we weren't even 2 years old. We were something like 22 months old when the pandemic hit, which actually meant that we didn't qualify for much, if anything, of the government support. And as anybody will remember in that time, events became illegal, quite literally illegal, and remained illegal for 2 years, which was a joy and a privilege to live through. So we lost all our clients overnight, and it was a real moment of, oh my God, what do we do next? But very quickly, I was taken on one side by Helen Oldham, who is the founder of Lifted Ventures, for those who don't know, and is a woman that I massively respect. And she told me that we have to adapt to virtual event delivery, and quickly. And I did not want to. I won't lie to you, I did not want to do it. But I have learned in my time that when Helen speaks, you listen, and you do, because she's always right. So we adapted really, really quickly into the virtual event world. And we ended up growing by 325% in the first year of the pandemic, which was insane, absolutely insane. And that then led to us being the delivery team behind some of the biggest sustainability events in the country, virtually to begin with. And then as the pandemic started to ease and we were able to get into hybrid event delivery, we then started delivering events as part of the COP26 lineup. And we then sort of went with these clients, returning them into the face-to-face world. And that for us felt like really purposeful work. And really, it was the moment where I sort of found that, oh, there's something here and I really, really like it. That was what then led to us creating the Sustainability Community, which originally became a spin out of the Secret Event Service and now is considerably bigger than the Secret Event Service was.
Right. Wow. That's covered a huge amount of stuff. Let's just unpack some of that. Firstly, you mentioned Helen Oldham. Helen has been a guest on the show. There'll be a link to Helen's episode in the show notes below. Let's rewind all the way back. What were you doing before you set up the business at 25? And just talk us very quickly through setting up a business, because there's lots of people listening who go, oh, I'd love to set up my own business. How do I do it? So what was that like? What were you doing at 25 and how did you set the business up?
So I was previously the general manager at a networking organisation within Yorkshire that's relatively well known. And I had originally started in that company at 23 and been made general manager within 8 months. So I started as a business development exec and then just kept wanting more and more and more responsibility. It was like my first ever experience of being in a really small business. There's only 4 of us in the team. And within 8 months, I was made general manager. And that was an incredible experience. And I learned a hell of a lot, but it was also a really challenging environment to be in. And one of the things that I had said to myself was, the moment I know what the name of my business is going to be, I'd always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I've been, since I was a child, I knew that that was the direction that was going to go. Me and my mum used to draw logos in the sand on the beach, like, what's the business going to be one day? And so I had this like rule with myself, which was, when you know the name of the business, that's when you'll know you're ready to go. And this is, I was falling asleep one night. It was not too far. That was an events business. It was an events and membership organization. And it was about something like 2 months before the big show that used to be in May. And I was falling asleep, and I had this like light bulb moment where the secret event service came to me. And I loved it, because I'd always wanted to be, I'd gone to Durham, right, for uni, and nobody had ever tapped me on the shoulder and made me part of a secret society. And I'd always wanted that. And I'd always wanted to be a spy, but I'm too much of a gobshite to be a spy. So I like the gossip too much. So it was like that moment of like, oh, there's something there. So I bought the domain there and then on GoDaddy, went to sleep, and that was it. Then I knew that I would deliver the event in May, and then after the event I would have my notice in. And my last ever day of employment was Independence Day. And that for me is like a real moment. And I always say it every year, like I would rather die than be employed again. And it was like, I'm finally free. I'm going to go and do it myself. And I'm going to, make all the mistakes and learn from all of that myself, and then benefit from, all of the hard work that I put in.
Okay. So you've got the name. It's July the 4th. What does July the 5th look like?
So I went straight down to London on July the 5th to go and work on Pride in London. So I used to be one of the event managers on Pride in London for a few years, which I was roped into by my cousin, who has managed to rope me into many voluntary things in my life. And I used to look after the VIP zone. They were like a VIP zone where Sadiq Khan would come and run through and shake the hands of the guests and all the rest of it. And that was the zone that I always looked after for several years. So that was what I did. I went straight down the following day to go and work on that and deliver that, which was great for me at the time, because it was giving me experience of a different kind of event, and a business to consumer event as well, which was, there was a hell of a lot of volunteers, and 1.3 million people, I think, came in that year. So yeah, that was the first thing I did.
But that wasn't paid. That was voluntary. So how did what does the start of the business look like?
There was a networking event in a car factory that you used to go to. And I went to that, and I sat next to one of the directors from Turner and Townsend. And I was telling him a bit about my history and And he said, oh, we want to do like our big Leeds showcase event next year. We could really do with some help pulling together our round tables. Could you do it? So Turner and Townsend ended up being our first ever client, which was like, wow, that doesn't happen normally. So they were our first ever client. And then, funnily enough, by the time we'd got into August, I'd had a call from my old boss, because I'd always said, like, I will go back if there's a need to support. And I got a call from my boss saying, our big event that happens in October won't happen if you don't return. Please, will you come in? Because what had happened when I left is that all of my team at the time had resigned on the Monday. My last day was the Wednesday. They resigned on the Monday. So he'd been in a position where he'd had to hire a whole new team quite quickly. So he asked me if I'd come back in a freelance role. So I came back in a freelance role for almost a year. And I used that to then kind of establish, bringing myself in some money, which was considerably more than I was paid when I was salaried there, which was a real joy. And then I used that to like give me the footing. And then the next thing I did was go and get on the NatWest accelerator program at the time. And I then worked with NatWest on how to shape the business plan. I wrote the business plan, the very first business plan, on a canal boat while traveling with 2 of my best friends from university. That first business plan versus what actually happened, there was not one thing that was actually followed through on that first business plan at all. And I learned so much.
There's a couple of things you mentioned there, I think, which are really interesting. The amount of people I talk to whose first clients is, an accident like
Yeah.
Turner and Townsend. And I had something similar in my business, where actually freelancing for your old client or your old company is also a great way to start a business, or
Yeah.
to get a footing on the business. You mentioned NatWest Accelerator. Obviously, there's lots of accelerators out there. Tell us some of the benefits you got from that, and would you recommend startups going on things like accelerators?
Yes, I definitely would. So for me, the biggest thing that we got out of the accelerator was the community and the free office space, frankly. Um, but I'm still friends with some of the people that were on. So like people like George Fairhall,
Okay.
who runs Black, she was on the accelerator at the same time as us. People like Mihaela Gruer she was also on the accelerator at the same time as us. So yeah, there were some people that are still in business today, who we've gone through the journey and the trials and tribulations together, which is really,
Yeah.
really nice. And that for me was the biggest part of it. And then it was the building, having a space to build the team. That wasn't costing me any money, was massively valuable at that point. We stayed on so you could stay on that one for up to 18 months. We stayed on it for the full 18 months. And we did even try to convince them that we should be allowed to stay on for another 6 months, but they weren't having it. But yeah, we would have continued on that program for a long time. I look back now and I think, like, God, you were so naive, like, to think that you could go not knowing anything and start something from scratch. But then I think, if I'd have known
You would have done
anymore,
it.
yeah. And also, do you know, ironically, the reason that we survived the pandemic is because we were so small when it hit. And if we'd have been, I was really frustrated in that first 18 months about how long it was taking me to get established. But if we'd have been any bigger, our overheads would have flattened us. So we wouldn't have survived and we would have gone under. And it was, that was the sort of the irony of the situation. Was we did so well in the pandemic for two reasons, which was, number one, we adapted, well, three reasons actually. Number one, we adapted quickly. Number two, not everybody in our market adapted. And number three, we were small enough to be able to move the ship really quickly.
Right.
Whereas the bigger sort of corporate events agencies did all right. It was the ones in between, the ones that were, sort of 10 plus staff, that really suffered, because they were too big to move quickly, and their overheads were too much to, have the spare cash to keep going.
Right.
So we were in a strong position because we've not been that great before.
Okay, so talk us through the pandemic. So obviously everybody loses their shit in the events industry. That's it. We're all finished forever. The lovely Helen sits you down and sorts you out.
Yeah.
What did you do from there? Was it just sort of pray and spray and say, look, we'll do virtual events for you? And how did it look?
We basically started testing loads of platforms, and funnily enough, we ended up settling on the platform that ended up being the biggest platform in the space in the end. And it was you wouldn't have known that when you originally started. So we ended up training in Hopin, and we actually were working really closely with their dev team and talking them through, because when they first created that platform, it was not fit for purpose. It was not fit for like an event management company in mind. And they were adapting at rapid speed through, and not just our advice. So we're getting advice from left, right, and centre from all different events agencies that needed them to do it. So we basically went to market, like, outwardly saying, like, we're going to deliver virtual events. And we got an introduction from Jodie Hill to a company called She Has No Limits, who wanted to run a one-day conference on, like, supporting women, because women were being adversely affected in the pandemic, particularly women with children, because they were being expected to be the ones delivering at home, with the childcare situation, the education situation, and then continuing their businesses. And so they wanted to run this, like, really strong empowerment day. So we did that delivery in the September. From that came another lead that then became our second event. So somebody who'd been on that event, like, got in touch and said, like, you delivered that really, really well. We're doing one in November. Could you do that one for us? And at the same time as that, we had the idea that we might start to look at doing some Christmas parties. And we were rapidly running out of money at this point. And we put this out to market, and Anna Sutton, who was at the time running the data shed, got in touch and said, I really want to do like a big one for our our team. There was 50 people in the team. She was like, just bloody go for it. Like, we have to go for it because these people are suffering at home. Okay, right. She said, I just want to do like a virtual murder mystery or something like that, right? And I was like, leave it with me. Let me go and work something out. I ring my cousin who ropes me into all of the voluntary things, right? He works in theatre. So I'm like, hello, somebody wants us to run a virtual murder mystery. I don't know how to do that. Shall we work on this together? So he joins the business voluntarily. I owe him big time. I'm going to pay him back in the future when I have a sellout. But basically he joins the business voluntarily, gets all of his friends that are out of work in theatre to start to audition. He runs auditions. We managed to get people that are like on Bridgerton normally to do this thing, right? We get somebody to write us a script. And then we get that person to write us 3 scripts so that people have got options, right? Then we start running a virtual murder mystery. We then do a virtual escape room. We then do virtual dining, virtual wine tasting. We like build this whole product, right? And we are like I said, we're rapidly running out of money at this point. And we were in desperate need of 10 grand. That was like what we really needed to get us through the next 3 months. We managed to get that from the Christmas holidays. We had our biggest month to date at that point, which was 15 grand in December from the virtual Christmas parties. And that got us to the next thing, which was we then won the contract to deliver one of the biggest sustainability events in the country in the February. So yeah, we then got that one, and then it just sort of went like that. Right. Oh, and on to the next. Oh, and on to the next. And every single one of them was an introduction from somebody else or somebody in my network. It was no sort of outward marketing. It was just purely my network, or somebody had recommended me or whatever. And then that's how it spiraled, basically.
Fantastic. Right, so the sustainability event seems like the inflection point. So before we get onto that, we need to talk to our listeners and viewers about the Leeds Business Podcast Fair Deal. The Leeds Business Podcast Fair Deal has 2 sides to it. My side of the deal is I bring you every week free of charge brilliant, exciting, interesting, motivational, and generally really good fun people free of charge. You, listener and viewer, have one thing to do in exchange, and that is to recommend this podcast to two other people who you will think will get a benefit from it. So that's the Leeds Business Podcast Fair Deal. Sound like a fair deal, Kate?
Sounds like a very fair deal. I like that.
Okay. So sustainability event, big sustainability event. Not necessarily talk about the event itself, talk about how that sort of inflection point changes the business journey.
Well, actually, that was the moment where it was like, oh, this is really interesting work. But the real inflection point actually came in the September 2022. So we had just delivered a hybrid conference for a marketing agency in London and New York. It was our biggest client to date. They spent £100,000 with us. We were like, oh my God, we have made it. And then Liz Truss crashed the economy. Thanks, Liz. And they rang me up the following day. We got the most glowing testimonial from them. And it was like incredible. It was like, we could not have done this without you. You became part of our team. You went above and beyond, amazing, wonderful people. And it was a graft of an event. Like everything, it was cursed. Everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. Like the Queen died and we weren't sure we were going to be able to store it. And all like you were like, oh my God, what if we, anyway, it was a graft. But they rang me up after Liz Truss crashed the economy and they said, look, we absolutely loved it. However, there is an event run by a company, a publishing house next year that we can sponsor as the headline sponsor for 50 grand. And the whole event cost us 300 grand to run. We've had our marketing budget slashed. We can't do it. We really would love to work with you again, but we can't do it. And so that they made me sort of take a moment to go, right, we're going to be in another situation here where we're in difficulty again. What do we do? And what do we actually want to do? Because at this point I was burned out, was completely burned out. 5 days later, I was at a regional sustainability conference at the Royal Armouries, and I was sat at the back of the room thinking to myself, this is really doom and gloom. This is really heavy on the, the world is burning and everything's going to fall to shit. And if you're not already in this world and you don't already know that and you don't already care, it's not creating an environment where you really want to join. People run away from this, they don't run towards it, right? And I was like, we could run this, a celebration of sustainability and the growing green economy and the opportunities within it and the connect the businesses. Light bulb moment of we could run Yorkshire Sustainability Week as it was in its first year. So I followed my original protocol. I bought the domain there and then. I rang my website developer on the break and said, Alex, can you build me a website that does X, Y, Z and it needs to run like this and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, of course I can. That's absolutely fine. So that night I posted it on LinkedIn. I had no clue other than it's going to be the name. I could do it in like July. What do people think? Put it out to the crowd, as it were. All of a sudden, we'd gone from being really, really quiet, waiting for, business to come, to my inbox being absolutely full of people going, it's a great idea, I want to be involved. And I was not known at all certainly not regionally known for my work in sustainability. And the Secret Event Service has always been white labeled in the delivery of our sustainability events, because that was the whole point of the secret element of the brand, right? So it was that moment of I've put this thing out and actually there's something in there. And I managed to get somebody to get me an introduction to Eve Roodhouse, who was at the time the chief officer of the economy at Leeds City Council. And I went to Eve with a spreadsheet, no logo, no website, no nothing. None of it was ready yet. Went to her with a spreadsheet and said, hello, I think I can do this thing. And I know how to do it because I've done events for a long time. And all I need is your backing, 10 grand, please, and some instructions. And Eve said, yeah, all right then, let me go and work out where I'm going to go and get that money from. And I'll start making you some introductions to businesses that would want to get behind this. And that was it. Basically, that was the moment. And the very first time we delivered it as part of the Secret Event Service. But by the time we got to the event delivery, and I delivered in that first year, at this point we were 4 members of staff in the Secret Event Service, right? In that first year, I onboarded all of the sponsors. I did all of the outreach for the sponsors, all of the speakers, all of the content, all of the structure, everything. I did all of it. And then I had the events team that supported the operational delivery. Now, in the team that we have in the sustainability community, it is one person's full-time job to work on speaker management, right? It is 3 people's full-time job to work on sponsorship and partnerships engagement. And it is 2 people's job to work on the operations, right? I was like a broken woman at the end of it, but what I could see was it had been reacted to really, really well, and there was something here. And I knew when I'd had the original idea, eventually this could be a community, it could be a networking organisation, it could be a membership. So I again bought the domain for the sustainabilitycommunity.com, and I registered the company a week before we actually delivered the first ever Yorkshire Sustainability Week, ready to then go out with it as the next thing that came after it. And then we expanded it from there.
Wow. There's so much in there. There's just so much in there. I'll let people just listen to it. They can all process it themselves. It actually leads quite nicely into this week's how-to, because at various points of this journey, it's been who you've been connected with, who you've networked with. So tell us what your how-to is and tell us how to do it.
Yes. So my how-to is how to network effectively. Okay. And the key to networking effectively is first and foremost to make sure that your priority number 1 is to find out how you can help someone, not how you can receive help, but how you can help someone. To build a really solid foundation of an incredible network, you need to spend, and it took me years, it wasn't something that happened overnight. You need to spend years working out how you help someone else. If you work out how you help somebody else, then that person is going to want to help you when you know what your ask is. And don't ask until you are clear what your ask is. So that was my big thing, was I didn't call in my favors until I knew what I was building with Yorkshire Sustainability Week. And for a very, very, very long time, I was helping people with no understanding of what ultimately I would benefit from. But I just knew it was the right thing to do. But it was building those really solid foundations that then helped me to get the introductions. When I then needed to really be in the rooms of the people that I wanted to get in front of, I was then able to say, hi, do you remember that time? Can you just help with this now? Because I know where I'm going now. There was a long time, 5 years, where ultimately we managed to get from A to B, but we didn't know where we were going or the direction that we were traveling in. Now we're really, really clear on the direction that we're traveling in. So it's a lot easier to go with an ask. And we know what we're delivering now has real value. So people want to be a part of it, which is lovely. But that's the key. The key is to help people first and then ask for the help when you know where you're going.
Absolutely. So we've done the Yorkshire Sustainability event.
Yeah.
And then you've gone, right, I can okay, let's ask the question very simply. How do you monetize a community like you have done?
Yes. So we have several different arms to monetizing. So for a very long time, our first and foremost arm was sponsorship and ticket sales. Really simply, so we have a series of events, and you can sponsor that event for a fee, or you can partner with us on that event for a fee, and you can buy tickets to the events. And people have like mixed views on whether you should charge a ticket price or not. My view is that you absolutely should charge a ticket price, because you get a much higher turn up rate if you charge a ticket price. If you make your events free to attend, you can have a dropout rate of up to 60%, right? So it's really important to charge for tickets, actually. So that was our first arm. And then in September 2025, this year, we launched our membership arm, which is an annual recurring revenue arm, where people will pay a fee to join as a member. And we've already been lucky enough to acquire 20 members in our first month. We're recording this at the beginning of October. And so we're already building that revenue. And eventually what we will build alongside this is a training arm to the company as well, where we're able to support people with the skills that need to be developed in this industry. And we'll monetize that too.
Okay. So are you creating and then putting on the events, or are you still doing it for third-party companies?
So we are creating and putting on the event.
Right. So they're all your events, and so you decide what the event's going to be, where it's going to be, what the target's going to be, what the aim's going to be, and then you bring sponsors, speakers, ticket sales in.
Exactly that.
Right.
Exactly that. Yeah. So, and that is a risk, because obviously you are burdened with all of the costs, and it takes a few years to establish. So it took us until this year to start to get into a profitable business model with that. Each year for the first 2 years of building, especially when we were regionally focused, we were loss making, and it was learning from how to spend the money really effectively. So what you should and shouldn't pay for. So, and B, ultimately, how to get the message out to the market in a way that ultimately wants them to pay the fee that you want them to pay. We're just now at this point getting that right. But it took us to adapting to a nationally focused model rather than a purely regionally focused model, to get that financial model right. But we would never be able to get to national without having gone into market with a regional model.
I get that. So to grow the business, is it just a case of putting more events on, or is it to go internationally, or could you do the same event and sort of do a tour around the country with that event? I mean, how do you expand what you're doing?
So our expansion plan does involve doing more events, and what we've started to do is become more more regionally focused, in the sense of we're now delivering in Newcastle, in Birmingham, in Sheffield, not just in Leeds. We're all across the country. We're even in talks with Liverpool. And focusing on some key themes within our sector. So now we have a clean energy conference, we have a circular economy conference, we have a green finance conference, we have a future cities and transport conference. And we use all of those. They are in their own right revenue generating events, which is fantastic. And we use, we work with the combined authorities in the regions that we deliver those events in, and the business community nationally and regionally in those areas too. But we are also using that to help us to develop our flagship conference, which is Regeneration Earth, which we delivered earlier this year for the very first time. And our vision for Regeneration Earth is to turn it into Europe's answer to COP, where we bring all of the regions under one roof to grow the green economy. So that by building these events in the regions, what we are doing is building really solid foundations with these regions, showing that we can deliver to a really high standard, and then inviting them to participate in the larger conference where we bring all of this together. And that as a pathway is working really, really well for us.
Okay, fantastic. I like the fact Europe's answer to COP. That's, when people talk about a BHAG, that's a BHAG.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, absolutely. And it's needed, right? COP doesn't deliver what it once did. So we're going to do it.
Love it, love it, love it. Now, every week we ask our guests to give us their brilliant business idea that they'll talk for hours about, but we'll never do. So, Kate, what's your brilliant business idea?
Okay, so this is one that I would love to do, but I don't think I am a true entrepreneur. I own 63 domains, right? So there are many business ideas.
Been there, done that.
Yeah. There are many business ideas that I have got that probably will not start. But this one was going to be the secret corner. And it was going to be I basically saw it as like the Hamleys of the North. Right. So Hamleys is the big toy shop in London. We don't have like an equivalent to that in the north of the UK. We certainly don't have it in Leeds. And I always had this vision of like taking like a big corner plot, like the old Debenhams store or whatever, and turning it into a big children's toy store that was going to be like all about interaction and all about how all of the staff were going to be the students that were training in drama and things like that. So, future actors that needed a Saturday job, in the meantime and whatever. And it would be experiential, not just, going somewhere to buy a toy or to do whatever. It would be a whole, circus, and the opening of the Christmas window would be an event in its own right, and so on and so forth. So I don't think I'll do it, but that would be the one idea that I think would be so cool.
So is that like a cross between a toy shop and a museum, somewhere in the middle?
Yeah, absolutely. And the kind of place where you take your kids to host birthday parties. You remember when McDonald's used to host birthday parties?
Yeah.
And they don't do it anymore. Like that kind of thing, like there was this thing, at the beginning of my career, I went to work in fashion and I interned at Harrods, right? In the children's department, in the children's buying department. But one of the things that they had next to the buying department was this like area where they had like a princess theme where you could go as a little girl and get your hair and makeup done and put a princess dress on, and like it was like a whole experience. So that kind of thing where you could come and have a birthday party in store, and it was really, really cool. That would be the vibe.
Right, got it. And what's it called?
The Secret Corner.
Right, okay. There you go. So if the secret corner appears somewhere in Leeds, somebody's been listening to the podcast and nicked your idea. Okay, yeah, love it.
I've just closed I had it as a business. I'd literally just closed the dormant account on it. Just because.
Okay, one last thing. All our guests get to give another Leeds business a shout out. So, Kate, who are you going to give a shout out to?
Can I give 2 shout outs?
Oh, go on, be greedy.
Thank you. So there are 2 really incredible businesses that do very different things. I'll start with the first one. For those that don't know, Bind Ethics, the founder is Victoria Garcia. She is one of the most incredible entrepreneurs that I've ever met. And Bind Ethics is this really clever glue, right? How insane is this? I didn't know this. When you buy furniture from like IKEA, and you put it together, the glue is carcinogenic and completely unrecyclable, right? So that means that any of your IKEA furniture in your house is completely, you've just got to be binned when you're done with it, right? Victoria she's a scientist, right? She's a chemist. She's created a glue that is non-carcinogenic and completely recyclable, and she's scaling this. And then she's built the second business alongside called Quick Labs to support other scientists in being able to have somewhere to go to at that startup stage when they're not attached to a university, for example. And she's using these two businesses to help to scale the scientific community and to get this product to market. And I just think it's so clever, and it will really help with the circular economy. So that's my first shout out. And my second is to Michaela Brown, who I called Michaela Brewer because that was her maiden name earlier in the podcast. Michaela Brown is the founder of a really incredible business that supports also academics with actually helping them to get their ideas out into the world. So she works directly with academics on making their research make sense to ordinary people. And to tell the story of what their research is trying to get across. And I think that's really, really important because we have some incredible academics out in the world who are doing really amazing things, but don't necessarily know how to communicate that effectively. And the key to all of this and the key to growing the green economy is how we communicate that story more effectively. So they're my two shout outs.
And what's her business called?
And her business is called Research Retold.
Okay, fantastic. There'll be a link to both of those companies in the show notes. I've seen Victoria's pitch a number of times and it is fantastic. It is a great, great business idea. Kate, it's been absolutely fantastic talking to you. Thanks ever so much for being a guest on the show.
Thank you very much. Lovely to be here.
So that's it. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. Make sure you hit the follow button so every new episode gets sent straight to your phone. See you next week.